It's Saturday night. That means it's time for the Don Tony Show.
The wait all week long is finally over. Get Don Tony's perspective on current affairs in the world of pro wrestling and much more. The Don Tony Show.
And now your host, the man, the legend, Don Tony.
All right. Good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing this weekend? It is April 23rd, 2022. Can't believe April is already almost over. Unbelievable. Year is flying by, and I hope you all having a great weekend. This is the Don Tony Show, and I am Don Tony, your host as always. Thank you very much for joining us. Big shout out to everybody who is live, everybody on the replay. Big shout out to our new moderators. You will see them joining Austin Nance in the future, to keep the peace in the chat. And we got a few things to get into today. Before we get into anything, I got a really cool email from someone. I don't want to say who it is, but basically the email said, hey, DT, actually it was addressed to Anthony. Hey, Anthony, I just wanted to thank you for what you said last week about the scammer and Liv Morgan. Apparently, everything is coming back to the fact that this person was, in fact, a scammer, not a fan. No house was sold, no life possessions lost, given to scammers who the person thought it was Liv Morgan. I think the one glaring aspect of it, and that's not actually the scammer's photo. That is a picture of an actual scammer who does these types of scams. So he is the poster child for the scammers. But a lot of people, it's scary in 2022. They have no idea some of the scams that are going on, and some of them are really extremely believable. And someone who is just kind-hearted like Liv, will be the victim of it. And I did see David Bixenspan get scammed. Well, an attempted scam. He's a very bright man. Somebody DM'd him yesterday pretending to be Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan, people don't understand. How do these scammers suddenly come up with Liv Morgan? Well, a couple of things. Number one, they see as far as WWE who is trending on social media, who's trending on Google. They will also use someone, who some guys may fall victim to and might want to legitimately give them everything to help them out. That's why Seth Rollins at that time was getting a lot of buzz. One of the most sought out, superstars as far as social media and Google goes. And he was the scam du jour. So soon enough, somebody else will pick up where it's left off for Liv Morgan. But I think Liv Morgan realizes now that nobody on social media, none of her fans, they're not trying to scam other people. These are sick individuals from different countries that are going to do it. So no matter how much she begs, no matter how much she tells everyone, please don't do that, it goes on deaf ears. So, I think it was pretty obvious last week when no news outlet would cover it. None. No news outlet at all. That should have been the telltale sign that, hey, something's up over here. So, all right. We got a couple of news tidbits to get into today. And, I had to do a little bit of research on a few of them. And I got an audio clip. I got a video clip. Well, actually, it's two video clips. Video clip of something that I'm going to show you in a few minutes, but something else that has to do with Nick Khan and Tony Khan. And I don't know who to credit for putting this together, but it is, even the starkest, the most diehard AEW fans, I think, would have a difficult time arguing this one. But you know what? I want to just say this in a very nice way. I don't want to jump the gun. That is something I don't like doing. I have seen people get sued for the stupidest of things. I know a lot of people out there, and I brought it up 2 days ago when it came to Tammy Sytch. When the accident first came out, of course, we could have just crucified her and, taken her down from the cross and crucified her again, burned her at the stake. But I hate when people can't understand this. I have to be a little bit more responsible and go with the facts that are available. But I said, maybe I have to start saying it in Spanish and Chinese and Japanese and Italian. Maybe I have to say it in different languages so it penetrates for some people. If it ends up that she was intoxicated, she's done. She's over. It's it. That's it. We will definitely talk about it, but I can't jump the gun. But last Saturday, I told you all, get ready. Something big is going to break in a couple of days. And sure enough, the wrongful death lawsuit came out. Well, I'm going to tell you right now here, start preparing for, I originally wrote Tropical Storm Sytch, but I'm going to just say it nicely and say start preparing everyone for Tropical Storm Sytch, because it's about to hit landfall. Get ready. Sadly, it is going to be a big story. I already got the heads up as far as what they perceive is going to come out. No, I will not say it now because I don't want to be wrong. Hashtag, I don't want to be first. I want to be right, but prepare yourself. Should happen this week. Yeah, it's going down and it's sad. It sucks that has to be a topic of conversation. And I tell you what's even worse. You look at her social media and she's plugging the OnlyFans and plugging the OnlyFans and plugging the OnlyFans as if, nothing is going on. And I tell you, I don't know if that's, her escape from what's about to happen. If it's a last ditch, having fun right before what's about to happen, or if it's just, just clear cut, I don't give a shit attitude. I don't know what to make of it, man. It's odd. It really is. It's sad. Yes, I'm having coffee tonight. I had a little bit of a migraine this morning. Yeah, stress does get to Don Tony once in a while. All right. Let's talk about this man. Bret the Hitman Hart. Anybody that follows my shows for years and years and years, you know how much of a fan I am of Bret Hart. Not just his in-ring ability, and when he always used the moniker excellence of execution, I always think back to Wrestling with Shadows. Look at my punches. Everything so crisp, so perfect. The man was an artist. The man was just beautiful at what he did. Everything he did was believable. But I also got a little personal and told that story that a lot of people don't know, and I don't mind saying it again. I have a cousin who has AIDS. She has had AIDS now for about 30 years. And now she's starting to get in real poor health because she's old. But she was one of the biggest Bret Hart fans growing up. And back in the 90s, I don't know who in my family actually wrote to the WWF, but this was when she first got diagnosed with AIDS. And she was in the hospital, and they asked, that Bret Hart was her number one fan, and they asked if they could send something. Bret Hart sent a jacket to her. And that always stuck with me. That's something I've talked about on the hotlines. Obviously, it happened before 1997, but guy's a good man. And I have to open up with that because if I don't, what I'm about to say, it may offend some people. in 2022, Bret Hart managing FTR, Bret Hart being a guest host of Raw, Bret Hart being a GM for Raw, Bret Hart coming out on a TV show is not going to draw any ratings. It's not going to do anything. I mean, Bret Hart, as you could see, has been, look at the gray hairs. He's been on WWE TV before. All right. So, I understand that there are some AEW fans out there that really, really, really wanted to see Bret Hart manage FTR. More because FTR beloves Bret Hart. And they thought that would be a cool thing to see in AEW. And yes, Bret Hart managing FTR and AEW would be cool. Would be cool. Absolutely would be cool. It's not going to change the ratings. Not going to do anything. It's not going to do anything at all. Jake the Snake Roberts, I love that he's still doing some stuff with Lance Archer, even though it's starting to be weeded out, as you notice. Tully Blanchard, I love what he was doing with FTR, and obviously that changed. So Bret Hart coming in, listen, let's be honest. It's not anything huge. But because WWE signed a deal with Bret Hart to come in, and that appears to be the case, people got to use special adjectives. They can't just accept the fact that Bret Hart signed a Legends deal with WWE, and, they're going to use him a little bit, but they have to use a different L word. They have to use the word ludicrous. Define what ludicrous is. What is Spaceballs, ludicrous speed? Some journalist uses the term ludicrous, and it just so happens it's a journalist that is very heavy favoriting AEW, and everybody runs with it. Bret Hart did not sign a lucrative deal with WWE. Bret Hart signed a Legends deal and a nice deal with merchandise and celebration and other things coming with it as well. Bret Hart earned that. CM Punk just said in a recent interview, it's a shame of all the money that Bret Hart has lost over the years. I guarantee you that WWE is paying Bret Hart, offered Bret Hart more than what AEW did. But because WWE offered more, it's ludicrous. Get it? If you've paid attention to my shows the last 2 years, I have educated you about the AEW contracts. That is not a knock on Tony Khan. Tony Khan is a very smart man. But when you understand the size of the AEW contracts, that's why you have so much freedom to do other things. And WWE signs you to an exclusive deal. WWE's contract is always going to be this. And AEW's contract is always going to be this. That's common sense. Just because WWE's contract is this doesn't mean it's ludicrous. So people are using these cute words. So now I'll tell you something I have not seen anybody out there say. And one cool thing about, talking about things on these shows is that you make no mistake. You don't mix up who said what and what this and that. And the Liv Morgan stuff is awesome. I don't want to be right about that. I'm more happy about the fact that somebody didn't lose their house. But in the case of Bret Hart, I'm going to throw something out there to you right now I haven't seen anybody bring up. You know what I'm hearing might have been a big factor in Bret Hart signing this deal? Steve Austin. Steve Austin. Why, you may ask? Am I insinuating that Bret Hart is going to get back in the ring? No, I am not. Steve Austin is 57 years old. Bret Hart, I believe, is 64 years old. Bret Hart is the same age as Sting. Sting is a phenomenon. Sting is the 10th wonder of the world, if there isn't 10, and he is the 10th wonder of the world. I'm not saying that Bret Hart is going to return to the ring. But I think one thing that was proven with Steve Austin, that, if Bret Hart were to get a little physical on someone, WWE has shown that with Steve Austin, they did it very, very safe. Steve Austin obviously took some extra bumps that WWE didn't even want him to do. But the idea is that, yes, there is life in WWE after 50. And if Bret Hart is going to go to Saudi Arabia, if Bret Hart is going to be an ambassador, if Bret Hart is going to be on TV doing some spots, if Bret Hart is going to represent WWE in other countries, conventions, this and that, that's a good thing. So I know a lot of people out there, and I'm saying this with the utmost sincerity, I know a lot of people out there kind of follow the footsteps of Dax's tweet earlier today. Saturday mood. And it is a picture of Bret Hart with the middle finger. Saturday mood. Yeah, of course, FTR would have loved to have Bret Hart in their corner. I mean, a lot of these wrestlers that you see on TV are lifelong wrestling fans as well. Me, if I had the opportunity, if I would have stood in the indie circuit as bad as I was, if I had the opportunity to have somebody who I looked up to and loved to be able to, even as a guest spot, to manage me, I mean, that's a bucket list. That's something that is in my heart. You can't change that. So it's not simply about TV and ratings and, you know, what fans want. That's very special for FTR as well. Of course, FTR is disappointed, but they understand this is business, and this is what wrestling fans need to start thinking about. It's a business, guys and gals. You're going to see WWE offer bigger deals to wrestlers that Tony Khan either does not or maybe down the line cannot match. That's how this works, everybody. You know, when you go on eBay, you know, and you want to buy something, if you don't have too much money in the bank, or you have to spread out the money and make sure that, you know, you don't overpay for a lot of things, you might be able to pay a little overpay here, and here. But if you got someone out there that is managing their money, and especially a publicly traded company, and they're trimming the fat, they're getting rid of 50, 100 people. You know, and I saw people joking that WWE let go 25 people recently for Cody. That's not as far off as you think, because WWE has a budget. AEW has a budget, and they have to follow that budget. And sure, Tony Khan will overpay more for wrestlers that he beloved, that fulfill his fantasy, that he absolutely enjoyed growing up. If I started a wrestling promotion, of course I would bring in some people that I absolutely love. Of course, that's common sense. But when it comes to WWE and it's straight up business, if they say, hey, you know, look at Mick Foley. This is a great tweet. Mick Foley actually wrote this tonight. Dear Dax and Cash, can you guys start mentioning me on here and tag Vince McMahon? Now, obviously that's a joke, because FTR are the ones who publicly stated that they wanted Bret Hart to manage them, and WWE signed Bret Hart. So Mick Foley's joking like, hey, mention me too. Maybe I could get a deal as well. I mean, that's cute. That's how this works, everyone. You know, understand, WWE is going to swoon in. You get a wrestler that becomes a free agent from Impact or Japan or somebody in the indie circuit, MLW, whatever it is, I don't care. And AEW is interested and WWE is interested. It depends on how much WWE is interested. Remember that interview that I told you all about that Triple H did with The Athletic? When Triple H was talking about NXT, yeah, I know there's a lot of people that, you know, are dying on that hill, insisting that WWE is trying to ruin Triple H's legacy and, you know, erasing everything that he did. The fact is that Triple H in an interview point blank said, and Jim Cornette, give that man credit too, because he tells it like it is. I know he's a little bit too harsh on AEW. I will even agree with that. And he's a little too old school at times. I will agree with that as well. But he said point blank that they signed every indie darling. And at some point, Vince is looking at a small guy or a guy that's not over or a guy that this, and like, you know, why are we spending all this time and money on this person? Just cut him loose. And Triple H said, we are going to cut people loose and they're going to be trained elsewhere. Where did you hear that before? We said it on the show about 15 times in the last 2 years that WWE is not going to invest a lot of time on some of these wrestlers. If they can't get them over quickly, they're going to release them, let them find themselves in another promotion, let them get trained somewhere else. And when they finally make that identity, take it to the next level, we grab them back. Drew McIntyre is a perfect example of that. Drew McIntyre, before the end of 2022, might be heavyweight champion once again. So that's what WWE is doing. Look, we don't want to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars for somebody to stay in Florida and get 600,000 viewers. I mean, that's the fact. And you got to look at that with some wrestlers. WWE is going to sit and wait and wait. It's like the stock market. So yeah, like the movie Trading Places. Remember? Wait. When you find the right moment, that's when you put your bid, whether you're buying or selling. And that's where you kill it. That's how it works. People have to start understanding what AEW is. It is no different than WWE. Creatively, AEW, I enjoy more. But as far as what's going on behind the scenes, it is no different than WWE. The only difference is AEW does not have to publicly reveal their revenue. That's why, as much as I loved Brandon Thurston's research this week about AEW's growth in the last 3 years, the one very important aspect of all of his research that's missing is how much money did AEW spend? How much money did AEW take in? They don't have to tell us. They're not a publicly traded company. That's how Dixie Carter got away with it for years and years and years and years and years. So sure. You know, all right, here. If anybody out there that's a YouTuber that makes ad revenue or whatever you do, okay? You know, CPMs, you know, you get a certain amount of revenue per 1,000 hits or whatever it is. You know, imagine that you have a bullshit channel. You just use your iPhone. And you just record from your iPhone and you upload it to YouTube through your iPhone. No mixer, no microphone, no servers, no bandwidth, no website, no nothing. No overhead, just a phone. And you make $1,000. Right? You make $1,000. Most of that $1,000 is profit. Now, let's say someone else got to use a mic, mixer, website, intros, all this stuff, crazy equipment, other things, pay people, this, and that. And you make that $1,000. But you had to spend $800 to get that $1,000. Which person is better ahead? Which person is the better person, businessman? Which one is more ahead? The person who spent almost no money and made $1,000, or the one who spent $850 to get that $1,000? See, Tony Khan a year ago didn't have dozens and dozens and dozens of very high-paying wrestlers. And the ratings and some of the revenue was less. But the growth that has transpired, what about all the extra money that has transpired as well? The expenses. We can't see that. So that's why on paper it can be perceived as growth, but you don't realize how much money is being spent to get to that. You don't want to spend $1,000 to make $1,000. You want to spend $200 to make $1,000. You want to maximize it. So people got to start understanding it more as a business. Now, I was going to save this for later, but I might as well bring it up now since we're on the topic of Tony Khan. He doubled down on the bots. And for anyone out there that was ever a fan of Kraftwerk, that's why I did this poster. You know, the thumbnail is a little tribute to Kraftwerk. You know, We Are the Robots. You know, that's that 80s song they did, Robots. We are the robots. Do, 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 do. That's why I did that. He doubled down. TV Insider did an interview with Tony Khan. It should have been all about the Forbidden Door. New Japan, AEW, we talked about that on Thursday in detail. But, obviously any media outlet out there is not going to pass up the opportunity to ask him about his claim with bots. I'm going to read you his latest statement. It is wackier than the first one. And then I'm going to say a challenge to Tony Khan, a legitimate challenge. This is not to get attention on me. I'm going to make a challenge to Tony Khan. And believe me when I tell you, when I tell you what it is definitely something that he can do. And he probably won't. Anyway, I have it printed up so I could keep my screen mostly on everybody who is here live, just to make sure that nobody's stirring up stuff. I know Thursday we had a few trolls, and I was pretty sad. I want to thank everybody for letting me know afterwards the identity of some of those people out there that were stirring it up, but it's all good. All right. So TV Insider is curious, about the bot thing. And Tony Khan's response was, and I quote, "What I've seen," now listen to this closely, because this is almost like the Dixie Carter cash flow positive, that it's a little confusing, but you think about it, like he starts explaining it, but I can almost guarantee this was a typed interview. This was not, "Hey, Tony, what's about these bots?" No, there's no audio. So he had plenty of time to type it, erase it, tweak it, edit it. So this obviously is much more finely detailed, but still, when you hear this closely, it is a little confusing. And I think Tony Khan is putting himself in a corner. I'll tell you why. He says, and I quote, "What I've seen was a lot of anti AEW accounts that are really focused on the things they don't like. A lot of those are legitimate things." Is this backtracking here? He just said there's a lot of anti AEW accounts that are focused on things they don't like. A lot of those are legitimate things. Some of those points I'm trying to address. Some of them I do not agree with. But the point is, a lot of these are the same people. Those are real people. A lot of their engagement, their retweets, their likes, people responding and signal boosting for what they are saying, those are bots. Guys, I'm no genius and I'm not a billionaire, but I ain't fucking born yesterday. Seriously, I want you to think about what I'm about to say. Even the biggest AEW supporters or the people that hate my guts, you may not want to say it publicly, but you're going to say to yourself, he's 100% right, what I'm about to say. I'm 100% right. Listen to what he said again. He's talking about there are people saying legitimate things, okay? All right. Some of it he doesn't like, he doesn't agree with, but these people are real people saying legitimate things. He's saying that people who are responding to that criticism, retweeting that criticism, liking that criticism, and signal boosting, those are bots. Wait a minute. So if I tell you 2 + 2 is 4, and a bot retweets it, isn't a bot retweeting something legitimate? If I tell you Joe Biden is our current president of the United States, even though if you don't like it, and a bot retweets it, if a bot responds to it, they're responding to a fucking legitimate comment. What is this guy saying? So now he's saying that the responders are bots. And TV Insider let him get away with that. Let me continue. You got a network of a few people with a lot of identities powered by a bunch of bots. Now we have people who are powered by bots. Mr. Bot, can I continue? Is it okay? Do I have you? Fuck is this guy smoking? Seriously. He just said we got a network of a few people with a lot of identities powered by bots. He says, I'm not making this up. I have hired IT experts that put together, they've already done it, everybody, that put together a much more sophisticated explanation than I'm capable of giving. Okay, here's the challenge, Mr. Khan. Why don't you tell us who the bots are? What do you think they're going to do? Put a dead fish on your windshield? They're fucking bots. Why don't you tell us who the bots are? They're not real. They're machine. What are you going to do? You're going to threaten your family?
Mr. Khan, I am very offended of what you said. If you do not stop bashing me and my bot family, I will come down there and I will tweet even worse.
Come on, Khan. Post the fucking bots. They're not real people. Then nobody can sue you. What do you think? There's a bot that's going to call Jim Cornette's lawyer? Stephen P. New. Call Stephen P. New. What the bot's going to do? They're going to sue you? They're going to post it, Tony. Who are the bots? Who are the bots? There's something wrong with you, sir. Thin-skinned, immature. You're digging yourself in a hole. And everybody is laughing at it. Guys, responsibility. See me? Okay, look, shit happens with me. Business, former co-hosts. In the end, I got to take responsibility. What did I say early in the week? Business as usual, full steam ahead. And some people interpreted that, oh, your former co-host is worthless. That all you said is all you need to do is change a thumbnail for Monday. That's what you think of your former co-host? No. Everybody tuning in here wants to hear me talk about topics. They want to hear the shows. They don't want to hear drama. I got to go full steam ahead. So that's how some people run. You look at Nick Khan. Nick Khan wants to be blamed for the negative stuff. Tony Khan with Satnam Singh, instead of just saying, look, we could have done a better job. It's on me. At the end of the day, I'm the one that signs off on everything. And, we got to do better. Period. No, instead, Tony Khan has got to blame it on a 30-year veteran. Want to see the biggest difference between Nick Khan and Tony Khan? I don't know who to credit with this. I don't know who to credit. But I want to show you this. This is Nick Khan talking about responsibility when things are not good. And then right alongside, I want you to hear Tony Khan defending the same thing. This is about responsibility when things are not good, or criticism. Watch how Nick Khan, and look, I'm not a big fan of Nick Khan. Just because I criticize Tony Khan doesn't mean I don't like the guy. The guy's got a lot of positive traits, but listen to Nick Khan, how he handles responsibility and culpability, and then check out Tony Khan. Again, I didn't make this video, so whoever did, credit goes to you.
How I look at things in terms of getting blamed for things, when something's a disaster, I want all of the credit. When something's a hit, I want none of the credit.
When something is a disaster, I want all the credit. Blame it on me. I will take the responsibility. Let me play the whole clip for you.
How I look at things in terms of getting blamed for things, when something's a disaster, I want all of the credit. When something's a hit, I want none of the credit. Mm-hmm. So if I'm blamed for whatever the fans don't like, that's good by me. As long as the good folks I work with who are making hard decisions, if it takes some of it off of them, I'm good with it all.
And to be honest, it wasn't my idea to turn the lights out. People might not have liked it. Satnam is an important person for us. It was important to debut him in a meaningful way and to show that with Jay Lethal, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. At the same time, turning the lights out for somebody people didn't recognize, it's a great point. And to be honest, when the person who brought up turning the lights off has over 30 years of experience in pro wrestling. And when they brought it up to me, I was only looking at the pros, and I should have thought about the cons, because that is my job as the person who decides what goes in and who filters out these ideas. We had all these people in the room, and somehow not one person, when that idea came up, brought out the negatives.
Let me ask you all a question, honestly. You know how I always joke online when you see people trying to judge Sammy Guevara and Ty Conti, calling Ty Conti a home wrecker, and not just accepting the fact that Sammy Guevara and his former fiance, they just drifted apart? Remember when I joked and I said, look at the relationship status of most of the people that are saying this, and they're not even in a relationship. I don't even know if they're capable of being in a relationship. When you have people online, remember in the past I said, look at the people online that are telling you where Miro should sign or where a wrestler should and should not sign, telling those wrestlers what they should do with their future. Look at their own employment. Some of them couldn't even work from home during the pandemic. So don't take diet advice from me, because I still got it. All right. In the tummy area. You don't take financial advice for someone that can't even find a paper route as a job. You don't take relationship advice for someone who has been a virgin all their life. All right. You look at that, and I ask you this question. For the majority of people online that, go like this about Tony Khan and go like this about Nick Khan, I ask you, which attitude do a lot of these people online take? Do they look like the people that would take responsibility for when things go wrong against them? Or do they come off as the type to blame it on everybody else? Put the blame on everybody else. Put the blame on everybody else. A lot of people identify with Tony Khan a trillion times more than they identify themselves as Nick Khan. They will write off Nick Khan as some billionaire that doesn't give a shit and this and that. So, that is tremendous. I watched those side by side. And I said, that is fucking amazing. You got one guy that says, okay, there's negative shit from the fans. Blame it on me. Blame it on me. This way it takes the heat off of everybody else and it makes their job a little easier. Tony Khan, don't blame me. Blame the guy with 30 years experience. Sooner or later, that is going to backfire big time. And I think that is one of the reasons why Cody Rhodes ultimately left. I'm not kidding. The guy they couldn't even work out a deal. And I'm telling you, when you see other people pick up and leave, it's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. So, all right. So that is the deal. So that is my challenge for Tony Khan. Tony Khan, post the list of bots. Post a few examples. Post 20, 25 examples. You paying ITs. He's paying ITs thousands of dollars for this research. Can you imagine if he only furnishes a list of 50? You're talking about hundreds of thousands of wrestling fans. And I've said this before. You got 900,000 fans on Wednesday watching Dynamite. How many of those fans also watch WWE programming? How many of those 900,000 fans on Wednesday night do you think only watches AEW and nothing else? A lot of people online will claim they don't watch WWE, but most of them ultimately end up, revealing that they watch WWE. When you look at Rampage, and Rampage does 400,000 to 500,000 viewers right now, how many of that 500,000 do you think are watching also WWE programming? You don't think anybody who was watching SmackDown a minute earlier didn't decide, hey, let me tune on Rampage and watch Rampage too? Half? Would you say 200,000? Think about that. If 200,000 WWE fans watch Rampage, that is only 10% of WWE's audience watching SmackDown. Only 10% decide, hey, let me go watch Rampage. So what does that tell you? That AEW Rampage only generates 200,000 of their own fans? When you see 120, 130,000 fans buying a pay-per-view, you look at the percentage. So again, it's sooner or later it's going to start backfiring, and I already think it is. I mean, look, AEW is safe. AEW is growing. You have to ask yourself this legit question. Listen, anybody online that says AEW is in trouble or AEW is not growing, those people are nuts. AEW, of course, is growing. But I ask you this, how much more could AEW grow if they decided to worry about their intellectual property a little bit? If they welcomed and gave a better atmosphere, like, hey, you know, you're a WWE fan, fine, you know, enjoy, check us out too, you know, and not this toxic culture online. How much more growth would AEW have if they tweaked a few things? A lot of them just sit on the sidelines and let everybody else act toxic. You know, there is a little bit of responsibility. And you see a lot of wrestlers in AEW, they will go on social media and put down fans who question, who have honest complaints. The fans are written off as stupid, morons, dopes, bots, trolls, haters. Tell me when you ever saw Impact Wrestling, WWE, even MLW, AAA, New Japan, any other promotion that will go on social media and actually call people out there haters, trolls, bots, this. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's all I have to say. All right, let's move on because, believe it or not, we've already gone 42 minutes. We definitely do want to end this a little early tonight. Now, I have some good news. Tomorrow, when we do the sit down, I am absolutely 100% going to open the phone lines. I did get quite a few emails from many of you good folk out there that would like to call in to just talk wrestling. So the phone lines will be open tomorrow, 8:05 p.m. if you would like to join me. On Monday, WWE is touting 20 years of Randy Orton. Raw's preview for Monday is going to be a celebration, 20 years. Oh, maybe this one looks better. Yeah, that's better. 20 years, 20 anniversary celebration for Randy Orton. That's going to be a celebration on Raw. We will see Becky Lynch make her return. Now, remember, we have Bianca taking on Sonya Deville next week. We all thought that was happening at WrestleMania Backlash. Is it possible, with Becky Lynch returning to Raw on Monday, could we end up seeing Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania Backlash? That could very well happen. A match that I think we all did not think would happen. It looks like it could happen. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Bobby Lashley will be taking on Omos in an arm wrestling contest. And I think we will have more WrestleMania Backlash buildup. Now, about SmackDown yesterday, I was doing a watch party yesterday, and by the way, I have another announcement. We're going to try it on Tuesday. The watch party now will be open to everyone. You will not need an invitation to be part of the watch party. The only thing is, for my international friends out there, if your TV provider does not have online streaming service that you could watch WWE programming, you're probably going to have to wait a little bit while, you know, the company gets the agreements with the international companies. You know, it's not easy for an American company to ink an international deal with an international cable company so you can watch the show live with us. So I know there's a lot of you who send me emails and DMs like, here's my provider. I sent it all to Playback. They are working on it, but it's going to take some time. You know, it's not easy to work with outside countries, but anybody that's within the United States or anybody overseas that has an online TV streaming service, you should be able to have access to it. So Tuesday, join me, because remember, we are going to do a little giveaway next month, give away a pretty cool autographed package involving NXT. And by the way, somebody that works within WWE sent me an email. They're sending me a bunch of WrestleMania autograph photos that are not on sale for the public. A lot of those poses that you have seen behind the scenes from WrestleMania, Becky Lynch with her makeup, Bianca with her outfit, Johnny Knoxville is sending me a bunch of photos. They're sending me a nice envelope with a bunch of autographed photos from WrestleMania. So you actually get WrestleMania photos autographed, and nobody has that. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So when I believe it, I see it, but I believe I will get it. So, but something else about SmackDown yesterday. For a second week in a row. Remember last week I brought it up, and a lot of people like, oh, DT, it's not a big deal. Remember last week when I said, hey, I noticed they didn't build Nakamura versus Roman Reigns last week. It's as if it never happened. There was no build last week. Well, are you convinced now when I said last week something feels a little off with that? Last night they did not build Roman Reigns and Nakamura for a second week in a row. Did WWE change their mind? Are they going to blow their load early and go with Drew McIntyre this soon? I don't know. But I felt something wrong last week when I said, why did they skip a week with Nakamura and Reigns? Now they've done it 2 weeks in a row. Something to keep your eye on. We talked about Xia Li a couple of days ago. I said Xia Li could be back as early as this Friday. Remember that? Well, she returned. And what an underwhelming return. Do you remember earlier in the week I said those vignettes were so cool? Remember I did my Xia Li impersonation? I protect my mother, my landlord, dickhead. I must fight for my family. I must protect and honor. Remember those cartoon videos? Remember what I said a couple of days ago? That would really suck if WWE has to reintroduce Xia Li. They had to reintroduce Xia Li yesterday. I'm Xia Li. What's the exact quote? And she was giving protection. Aaliyah, I don't know who else, but she was giving protection. Hey, Xia Li, just in character. I'm just talking storyline, everybody. I love Xia Li. You know that. But hey, Xia Li, nobody asks for your protection. You ain't the mafia. You don't show up at your house. You need protection? No, I don't need protection. Yeah, I think you do need protection. So Xia Li comes back yesterday. I don't see anybody that needs my protection or deserve. What did she say? I see no one worthy of my protection. So now I protect myself. All that hype, all that build, great vignettes out the fucking door. No one is worth. You know what's going to happen next week? Well, I don't know because I didn't see the spoilers. I don't want to know the spoilers next week. But you know what's going to happen sooner or later. We're going to see the backstage confrontation with Aaliyah and Xia Li. Xia, I thought we were friends. Xia, what's wrong? What's this? And Xia Li is going to go, hiya, kick Aaliyah right in the head. Aaliyah 316 says, I just jobbed out to Xia Li. That is coming. It didn't ruin Butch. It is way too soon. But I will say this. Man, did that suck yesterday when Butch lost again. I mean, I get it. Somebody in creative finds it hilarious to see Butch smack around Sheamus and Ridge Holland and run away like a dog. Have you seen Butch? Hey, Mr. Bot, is it okay if I still continue? Have you seen Mr. Butch? Somebody obviously has the giggles. Oh, we have to make him lose just to have that reaction. Because Butch doesn't have that reaction if he wins. So, look, Butch is not ruined yet. But something's got to change with Butch. Imagine if he got released. That when he walked out the way he did, that's it. He ain't coming back. Ooh, sorry about that. I was very pissed off yesterday. We were in a watch party yesterday, and I was like, nah, he's got to get the win on Xavier Woods. And he freaking lost. He's not Scrappy Doo. I love what Pat McAfee is calling them, the Eastie Boys. I think that is excellent. I love that term. I know it's a little take on the Beastie Boys, but I love that. The Eastie Boys. Listen, again, with all due respect, you look at Pete Dunne and NXT. Do you honestly think, for WWE standards, for the WWE universe, and the type of entertainment they provide on the USA Network and Fox, do you think that Pete Dunne would have been better off to show up on SmackDown with his long hair wearing fucking fur? Honestly, you think the WWE Universe would have clicked on that more? They're trying to create a little identity. You may not like the identity, but it is sure as hell better than him wearing fucking fur. So, anyway. So, last night, very uneventful SmackDown, if I may say so. We found out today that Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss are going to have a match at WrestleMania Backlash. Now, WrestleMania Backlash doesn't look like a bad card, especially if we get Bianca and Becky too. Oh, well, it's more than two if you count last year as well. But they get the rematch. I think that stacks up the card a little bit. But what's going to happen with Roman Reigns? You just unified the titles. Somebody needs to represent as heavyweight champion. You know, I know the tag titles is a big deal storyline wise, but it's temporary. It's only for a few months. You're not going to permanently unify the titles and that's it. No more. Split. It's not happening. This is just temporary because the tag team division sucks right now. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they decided, oh, let's put Sheamus and Ridge Holland as a tag team again and somehow Butch will somehow be on his own. I don't know. Yeah, we talked about Raquel Rodriguez 2 weeks ago. Again, intellectual property. Intellectual property. I mean, this is the way WWE's been doing it for decades and decades and decades. That if anybody does blow up into a major superstar and their identity, wait a minute, we talked about this on Thursday. You look at some Hall of Famers. Look at Bray Wyatt today. Bray Wyatt today had an autograph signing. You think he signed? Remember, you remember that dumb report that came out last year that WWE told their ex-wrestlers, you cannot autograph? Remember that ridiculously stupid story that some people actually believed? Remember that? You are not allowed to autograph items using our intellectual property. Remember that? Bullshit. We called it bullshit last year. It is bullshit. You look at a lot of WWE wrestlers who were released that do autograph signings, they sign their WWE names. Bray Wyatt had an autograph signing today. He was with Braun Strowman and Eric Rowan. I say their WWE names because they're more recognizable. See, I just did that. And what do you think Bray Wyatt signed as? You think he signed it as Windham? No, he signed them as Bray Wyatt. All the autographs he did today is Bray Wyatt. You think WWE is going to send him a cease and desist? Stop doing that. WWE has their intellectual property. You look at The Undertaker. Look at The Undertaker. If they didn't use that term, The Undertaker, he blew it up into a major star. Couldn't use that elsewhere. So sure, if Raquel Gonzalez blows up and becomes the next big thing in WWE, Raquel Rodriguez is what everybody is going to remember her for. And if she goes and ultimately leaves, she could tweak her name a little bit because her first name is not contested. This is intellectual property. That's all it is. That's why you see Casey Catanzaro, they're changing her name. WWE does not want people to continue using their real names because if they do become big stars and merchandise makers, then they profit while they're in WWE. And if they leave, you know, they cannot profit. I know it sounds cold, but that's how business works. You know, anytime someone ever gives me that argument, and I know this is an argument the way you all respond, I've seen a lot of you say this too. Why do you think all TV shows and movies use fake names? How come they don't use the real names? 99% of the time, they use fictitious names. Why? Because they have a particular character name they want to use for their movie or TV show. And if it clicks, then that's it. It's very rare somebody who is identified. I'll use some random, only because I saw him on social media earlier. Henry Winkler. I didn't like Happy Days back in the day. But to this day, people will say, hey, Fonzie, because that's how they identify with the person. So WWE using the intellectual property, that's common sense. So, all right. What else do we have to talk about? Rampage yesterday. We had Eddie Kingston beating Daniel Garcia. Everybody was banned from ringside with the exception of those two. Good match, excellent match. I know a lot of people out there feel that Daniel Garcia would have been better off with Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley instead of with Jericho. I kind of agree with that. But you know what? Seeing Daniel Garcia coming out with the Kango, I did think he's doing good. He's still extremely young. He's got his whole career ahead of him. And by the way, before I go any further, I know somebody asked me this Thursday, but this was at the very end of the show, so I didn't see it until after the show was over. But Bob the Builder asked, buy or sell, bigger star 10 years from now, MJF or Austin Theory? And I got to be honest with you. As a wrestling fan, I want MJF to be the biggest star. But I would not be surprised if Austin Theory is the bigger star 10 years from now. And I'll tell you why. You look at the WWE machine and what the WWE, when they see big time money in someone, they don't usually fail. If you really think about it, when they see, I'm not talking about the opposite. They have had wrestlers that were money, but they didn't know how to use them. But when WWE really sees money in someone, they'll put the machine behind them. So if they think Austin Theory is that next young guy, I'm sure he'll undergo some name changes along the way. But if he ends up being that next guy, I could see Austin Theory becoming a bigger star. The thing I'm worried about with MJF, to be honest with you, the one thing that the machine is overrated. $1 billion company. You got wrestlers making millions. Yeah, it's overrated. How is it overrated? Give me an example. Give me a couple of good examples. I don't agree with you. But MJF, what I'm concerned about with MJF is this. I've already talked about it, that if MJF were to go to WWE, he would not be able to say half the things that he says. He can't talk down on the crowd, can't curse, can't talk about somebody's mother being a crackhead. He can't call somebody a slut or a prostitute. He can't say TV 14 things on a PG company. So that's one of his problems. Am I concerned? Not really, because MJF is so good that he will be able to adapt and improvise, and I think he'll be fine. But this is the thing that worries me about MJF. MJF, up until now, has had a lot of freedom to cross the line. He's had a lot of freedom to cross the line. You're talking about 2022, 2021, 2020. We're in an era now, cancel culture and a lot of, Me Too's and everything else. You sometimes got to be extremely careful what you say. And when you have that luxury of crossing that line repeatedly in AEW, my concern is you're one step away of Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger. I know what some of you are saying right now, like, what is he talking about? You know, I happened to post a clip a couple of days ago of a promo that Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger did. It was 13 years ago already. 13. No, it was 9 years ago. Still, 9 years ago. Long time. But Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger, and this is before Trump ever became president, they were really striking some controversial nerves online, talking about illegal immigrants and illegal Mexicans and, you know, stealing jobs and all that stuff. I mean, it's pretty wild when you go back and you realize it's 9 years ago and this was before Trump became president. And what ended up happening? They were on a roll. Those two guys were causing a lot of controversy online. Then you had the Glenn Beck shit go down. And then Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger went online and said pretty much that Jack Swagger, that's a character. Zeb Coulter, that's a character. We play actors on TV. What you see is a performance. And we all know that it's entertainment. We all know the cat's out of the box. But when you have to literally, for a publicly traded company or not, have to go publicly and say, listen, that suspension of disbelief that you are enjoying right now, let me remind you, we are just actors. We do not necessarily believe this. We are playing characters on TV. We are not those people. And it just diffused all their momentum, let all the air out of the balloon. MJF, what I am worried about is that moment where something goes way over the top and MJF has to issue a statement that what you see is a character. And what I am and what you see are two totally different things. For MJF, that's on the verge of career suicide because no one out there knows where MJF, the person, ends and the character begins. So that is what I'm worried about with MJF. That if he really gets himself in trouble and he has to publicly, even if people are like, okay, MJF, okay, we get it. We know what you're saying. We know. Wink, wink. That's not good enough. So MJF has to be in character, not just 24/7, 365, but 24/7, 365 next 20 years. And he's got to be a little bit careful sometimes. Am I worried about it now? No. But that worry is always there because that could put tremendous damage because a lot of people out there are convinced that MJF is just, you know, he looks like his personality, his attitude is, you know, if you could, well, I don't want to say that. Everything about him, you know, is just toxic, you know, very talented, but they think that he's the absolute asshole outside of wrestling. So that's why I kind of feel Austin Theory has a safer path. But hey, I hope that both of them become major stars. I hope both of them become major stars. All right. I want to talk about LA Knight in a minute, but let me just give you the rest of the Rampage results. We had Daniel Garcia lose to Eddie Kingston. Jade Cargill becomes 30-0, beating Marina Shafir. Adam Cole beating Tomohiro Ishii, and what I loved about it yesterday, yeah, nice kick in the face, but ooh, look at that sign on the right. Xylot Themes, shout out to you, my brother. Thank you very much once again for showing the love. That was a nice little surprise waking up Wednesday night, seeing the DT sign. And yes, you know, he is a big supporter of the family, so thank you very much. Don't forget that announcement, everyone. In June, one night only, DTKC show comes back and we're having Killer Cross on. Yes. And as I said Thursday night, for some people out there that are like, oh, nice one, DT. To cover up what went down on Monday, you go ahead and do this. No, this was discussed weeks ago. I contacted Killer Cross about this a while ago. So, anyway. So Adam Cole advances in the Owen Hart tournament, and we had Lance Archer squashing Serpentico, and Lance Archer versus Wardlow is the next match, and Lance Archer is talking about them both getting bloodied up. So it's going to be interesting to see how far they push Wardlow in the ring with Lance Archer. I mean, we know what the outcome of the match is going to be, but we got to see what happens there. So nobody's burying New Japan talent. Nobody's burying New Japan talent. It's just one guy. And if you want my thoughts on the whole Forbidden Door thing with New Japan, when I go like this, check out Thursday's show, because I talked about it in detail. It's excellent, excellent for both of them. I compared it to, when ECW was going to do something with FMW. It outside of the two promotions, it really wasn't going to benefit anything else, but it was going to give more ECW exposure in Japan, more FMW exposure in the States. We would add some fantasy matches. So it's a win-win for AEW and New Japan. Absolutely. And remember the pay-per-view schedule that nobody talked about, why I think this Forbidden Door is going to help storylines in a lot of other areas, even some that have nothing to do with New Japan. So they also interviewed Keith Lee, Swerve Strickland, Jamie Hayter, Tony Storm, Britt Baker. I have nothing against this Owen Hart tournaments, obviously, but I brought it up even on the women's side. You pretty much have enhancement talent in a tournament qualifying matches, which is just mind-blowing when you realize AEW has enough women, and they're talking about milking it. Why even have matches to qualify? You have Britt Baker fighting no one number 2. Like unknown number 3. It's like, just put her in the fucking tournament. But they want the matches to feel extra special, and that's why they're doing it. But man, talk about milking it. I think it's a little too much. Just announce the brackets and start it. Or start the brackets at 32. Start it at 32. And start the matches already. Yes, they pad records, no question. All right. We got to talk about Ric Flair. Shit, I wanted to talk about Ric Flair right after the Bret Hart stuff before. But we could talk about it. Ric Flair, and we talk about LA Knight, and then I say good night. All right. Yeah, let's talk about LA Knight first, and then we'll talk about Ric Flair to close it out. LA Knight has a new member of Knight Model Management. And once again, guys, we joked about it last week. It did not get any better this week. Once again, nobody in the crowd has a good-looking camera. This is the best photo that I could come up with. Yes, I did, Chaos. I actually teased it before, and I am going to do it right now. I had to wait for you to be live to do it. It should pop up, but Guardian of Chaos is now a moderator for the chat. Yeah, you are now a moderator. He now has the powers. He shares it with Austin. So Chaos just looking out for the family, especially after what happened on Thursday with a couple of people trying to have a little bit too much fun. So Guardian of Chaos. I'm going to say Guardian of Chaos. Guardian of Chaos. Thank you very much, my friend. Yes, I do respond to emails. Problem is, sometimes I get emails and there's 54 questions attached to it. And it's like, I don't even know where to begin. So anyway, look at this picture. This is the best picture I could come up with. The newest member of Knight Model Management is Mansoor. And I like it. I think the name is a little catchy. Mace and Mansoor. I think that actually catches on. Mace and Mansoor. Mansoor is now the latest member of Knight model management. Now, do you remember last week when we talked about Mace? And I was very pleasantly surprised at the number of you out there who allowed me to open my grape Zevia. But no, I was very surprised at the number of you out there that actually are like, yeah, I could give this a chance with LA Knight. Manager and a wrestler, little reminiscent of Roddy Piper. Yeah, I'm in. And LA Knight is killer on the mic. LA Knight obviously talks a trillion times better than Mace, a trillion times better than Mansoor, two guys that obviously could use a manager. So now Mansoor is under the tutelage of LA Knight. Now, remember last week when we talked about Mace? In fact, it was even on the synopsis in the description for last week's episode. I said, are the grizzled young veterans next? I don't know if they are, but this past week on NXT, if you didn't see the segment online, they did an interview segment in the back, and they are done with NXT. They are leaving. Now, the two ideas, well, there's three scenarios going on. The first scenario is they're going to be released. Look, I'm not trying to wish any ill will on anybody, but you know my thoughts on the grizzled young veterans, that when we were doing the quarter-hour ratings breakdowns and you saw the nosedives with them, and when they would main event, the ratings would drop 100,000 viewers, they never were a draw. And that's a shame, but it's just the facts. So a lot of people think, could they be released? Yeah, that's possible. The second scenario, which I think is the more likely scenario, they're going to NXT UK. I think the grizzled young veterans would be better fit for NXT UK. If they're going to remain with WWE, I think NXT UK is the way to go. The third scenario is they get brought up to the main roster. And if you remember last week, I said, I wonder if they would put the grizzled young veterans with LA Knight. Dress them up a little bit. I could see LA Knight being the manager of them. I don't know if you call them the grizzled young veterans. I don't know how. I mean, I understand when you abbreviate it, it sounds pretty cool, the GYV. It almost sounds like, JYD, or if you go back to the 80s, Michael Jackson, PYT. Hey, PYT, pretty young thing. So GYV, I could see people catching on with that. But I don't know if they end up aligning themselves with LA Knight. But you almost feel, I think Mace and Mansoor are going to be a tag team. I think that could happen. I know it's, talk about a throw together. You look at Mansoor and you look at Mace, and it's not like they both have to be black or non-black or the same size. It's just two totally random people put together. But I kind of like the name, Mace and Mansoor. So we will see. No, I won't post my rap videos. No. So Mansoor is the latest member, and I like it because these two moves are going to help Mace, and it's going to help Mansoor. How far it goes, we don't know. All right. The pretty young veterans. The PYV. I like that, actually. Pretty Deadly. Somebody asked me about Pretty Deadly the other day. This was another one that I missed after the show ended Thursday. SoFly thinks Pretty Deadly would really fit with LA Knight's new stable. I don't know about that, because if you look at LA Knight, if you look at how Mace was dressed and how Mansoor was dressed, it's more dress shirt, nice pants. I know Mace was wearing sneakers, but no, these Pretty Deadly reminds me of Breezango meets the Hardys. That's what it kind of makes me feel like. That's the vibe I get. I don't think Pretty Deadly would work on the main roster this soon. If Pretty Deadly was in the States for a year already, then I would say yes. But it's not a bad idea. I think a little too soon. Too soon. DJ White Sox, DT for life. Fuck the haters. Yeah, I don't want any haters, it sucks that, some people have to feed off the hate, but it's all good. Mikey Rivello, Kraftwerk. He remembers how I said for years that they should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So cool that they got put in last year. Abso-freaking-lutely. I was so happy when Kraftwerk were announced for the Hall of Fame last year. I grew up on Kraftwerk. I talked about the documentaries of their work back in the early 70s. They were, outstanding. Look, people were telling me today, like, did you know that a clip from Booker T's song is Kraftwerk? Sure. A lot of songs been used from Kraftwerk. And for those that are asking, like, why is Mikey talking about Kraftwerk? Well, they were the inspiration of my thumbnail for this week. That is actually Kraftwerk. That is actually from one of their music videos in either the late 70s or the early 80s. And We Are the Robots is a phrase from one of their most famous songs. I freaking was a huge fan of Kraftwerk. So the fact that I was and that's, yes, they have WWE logos. I don't know if you can see it closely. Can I zoom in? I don't know. There's sometimes, I can't zoom in. Once I go live, the software kind of like messes with me. But I put WWE logos on their shirts to make it look like WWE robots. So, but yeah, I was very happy. So, Chris Cutrer, what are some of my favorite shows that I attended live? His top 3 is the Crockett Cup from '86, Clash of the Champions with Flair and Steamboat, and the 2001 Royal Rumble. Well, my all-time favorite is Hulk Hogan defeating the Iron Sheik to win the WWF Championship. There is actual video footage of me there, in the crowd. That's my all-time favorite because I grew up a Hulkamaniac, and that was just epic. You can't beat it. The noise in that building, you had chills. The building shaked. The freaking building shaked. Now, look, when Triple H made his return at the Garden, years later when he came back from injury, that is the loudest reaction I've ever heard at a wrestling show. I know people talking about CM Punk in Chicago, for AEW and everything else. Believe me, you got to understand, back 20 plus years ago, the acoustics and the setup didn't equate on TV like it does now. You could hear it, but not like it is now. I had so many people call me up on my hotline that night because I had the opportunity to go and I didn't. One of my old co-hosts went that night, but I had so many people call me up like the freaking building. You have no idea. I never heard anything. And that's one thing I kept hearing over and over again. But the original Garden, when Hogan became champion, it shaked. It shaked. The only other time I ever felt that was the 2001 World Series when I went to that game when Scott Brocious hit that home run off the Japanese pitcher from the Diamondbacks. I came back on my hotline that night, and I was like, literally, the seats were shaking. I went to Met games in the 80s where the seats would shake a little bit, but Hogan winning the championship, that was surreal. Another one is going to Connecticut to see my friend Lowlife Louis Ramos wrestle Terry Funk. That is something that is dear to me because I've met Terry Funk many times. He is my all-time favorite wrestler. I have so many items from Terry Funk. I've showed some of them to you before. He wrote me a 2-page letter when I got engaged back in 1999. I met him, had lunch with him, and almost got arrested the same day for a road rage incident. Terry Funk is my all-time favorite. And when Lowlife Louie told me, hey, I'm going to be fighting Terry Funk in Connecticut, I drove Louie to Connecticut. We hung out with Terry Funk. What I'll always remember from that day is Louie broke his front tooth in half, cracked it in half during the match with Terry Funk. And he never fixed the tooth. Maybe he fixed it by now, but he would never fix the tooth. I'm like, fix the tooth. He's like, no, man, every time I look at it, I just remember I fought Terry Funk. I'm like, that's fucking awesome. So that is on my top 3 as well. And, without, anything specific, ECW shows, take your pick. Going to ECW show at the Elks Lodge, going to Philly, the vibe. That's why, like I say, with AEW, they're missing an opportunity right now. You know, they want to be ECW with the family and the vibe and the energy and the chants and the interaction and everything. But the big difference is if you didn't know what ECW was in 1995, 1996, 7, 8, you were a diehard WWF or WCW fan, and you were like, what is this ECW? Even if you showed up wearing a Raw shirt, you're like, hey, I'm checking it out for the first time. I don't know any of the wrestlers. Everybody would be like, as long as you weren't being a dick, everybody would be like, come on, come hang out. Come on. Hey, everybody, hey, this is Tony. First ECW event. Oh, Tony, hey, how you doing? Hey. Everybody got along. I always remember that Hammerstein Ballroom show, The Guilty as Charged. Their last Guilty as Charged pay-per-view. That's the one where I brought the heroes. You know the whole story. And I sat right next to the ECW originals, those fans, Straw Hat Guy and all the others. I had never sat in the same row with them before. And if anybody remembers Smoked Out, they used to do the hotline with me and the Minority Report. He was a wrestler, Smoked Out. He wrestled for CZW. And he went with me that day. And we were sitting in the same row. We felt like we were sitting with royalty. And guess what? They were all cool as fuck. They did not act like they were celebrities. They didn't act like, you know, like, who are these people? They're like, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on? You know, hey, you want a beer? You want this? I mean, friendly as can be. The atmosphere, you invested a little bit of time and money in ECW, and especially if you were new to the product, you were welcomed with open arms. AEW, that environment is not there. It is the opposite online. And nobody in AEW is trying to change that. And that's the sad part about it. So, Russ was on the floor. Awesome, man. Oh, sure. I remember Faith No More guy. Absolutely. And by the way, you know, I mentioned this the other day, but in case, you know, because I know not everybody tunes into every show. When I was talking about the old ECW hotline that convinced me to do a hotline in 1997, I was saying Uriel. Uriel was doing the ECW bus trips. It was Tony Lewis. Tony Lewis is the one. And it's a shame that Tony Lewis does not get more love when people bring up the original ECW. Tony Lewis had an ECW hotline called Strictly ECW. And I called it religiously. I called the 900 ECW hotline. I called 1-900-909-PILL, Brian Pillman's hotline. I still remember it. Shh, you may learn something you're not supposed to. I'm sorry for repeating a story, but I'll share this story with you. I know you all love it. And then we'll talk about Flair. We'll get out of here. Actually, before I do that, James Campbell, do I see any stipulations or gimmicks being added to the Backlash matches since we have so many rematches? No. Other than the unified match, no. This WrestleMania Backlash, you know, they did for last year the same thing. It's the Backlash of WrestleMania. You know, if you add a match at WrestleMania, you should deserve an opportunity at a rematch. So this is the fallout. Like if WWE could change Backlash, they could change it to Fallout. You know, that was an XPW event name, Fallout. This is the fallout from WrestleMania. So I wouldn't want any stipulations like, oh, Becky loses, she doesn't get another title shot. I don't want that because I want to see Becky fight for the title again. So no, I don't think we would see any stipulation. I don't want to see any stipulations unless you do a gimmick thing. Maybe something with Sami Zayn, which I don't even know if that's going to happen. We might, you know what? We may end up seeing something with Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre. All right. Quick ECW story. Talk about Ric Flair. I got a video clip. Stay tuned. I think you all know what that is. We'll jet out. Back when ECW had their hotline, and if anybody that used to be in ECW that worked behind the scenes, Dreamer, Bubba Ray, anyone else, asked him if I'm making this up. In fact, they might even turn around. Bubba Ray was in charge with merchandise. I don't know if it was him or Dreamer. I guarantee you one of them may turn around and say, that cocksucker, that motherfucker. Okay, check this out. Back in the 90s, ECW had a hotline. And when you called the hotline, it was usually Joey Styles for the most part, giving some news, scoops, WCW had their hotline. Remember Mean Gene Oakland, the 1-900 number. Anyway, ECW had their own 900 number as well. And I don't remember how much it was, maybe $1.99 a minute, somewhere around there. It might have even been more, but let's say $1.99 a minute. $1.99 a minute sounds kind of like it might have been that. Now, keep in mind, okay, $2 a minute. Let's say 5-minute call, right? $10. It's a lot for a call. Okay. What they used to offer on the ECW hotline is they had a trivia section. And the trivia section, you push the button, you get to the trivia. If you answer 5 questions correctly, you win an ECW hat or you won an ECW shirt. I think it was mostly a hat. So one time I go to the trivia thing. I didn't get all 5 answers right. Like, fuck. I call the hotline again. I do the trivia again. I answered like maybe 3 out of the 5 right. I'm like, fuck. Third time I called, they were asking the same questions again. And I knew the ones I got wrong. So by now I know the answers that are correct. So I answered it correctly. Leave your name and address after the tone. We will send you an ECW hat. So I answered it right. You win. I leave my name. I leave my address. 2 weeks later, at my door is an ECW hat. That was it. Every time I called the ECW hotline, I would go right to the trivia. And if there was any new questions that I didn't know before, I would write it down. And then there was probably, I'd say 30 or 40 questions total. And the computer would randomly select 5 of them. And I just kept winning over and over and over and over and over again. After a little while, there was no more trivia section because you would call. And even if you spent 5 minutes on the hotline, you spent $10 and you won a hat. It was still cheaper than buying it through our video or the catalog or whatever it was. I can't tell you how many ECW items I won through that hotline because after a while, who was the first ECW champion? Press A for Don Morocco. Press D for Terry Funk. Press C for Jimmy Snuka. Press 4 for... And you just... Ask them. I got so much merch. And I was like, this is great, man. Spend $8, $10, get a $20, $25 hat. I don't have to pay shipping either. Awesome. All right. Check out this clip. This was posted publicly for everyone. I'm not going to play the audio of it, but it did get a lot of attention for the simple reason that Ric Flair is 73 years old. Ric Flair is seen in looks like a warehouse, a garage with Jay Lethal, and Ric Flair is wrestling. He is sparring with Jay Lethal. Now, if you notice, this is all edited, so we don't know how many physical breaks that Ric Flair took with this, but I got to tell you, for 73 years old and the health issues that Ric Flair has, it's not embarrassing. And I got to tell you, the audio, the punches and the chops, he actually looked great, man. This is probably the best, but right there, the punches, the chops, he looked great. I'm telling you. And look, you know me, I have been very, very critical about Ric Flair for years now. But this is getting a lot of attention because people are asking, what is this about? Is this just 2 friends exercising, working out, having a little bit of fun? Or is this a sign of something for the future? I mean, again, you look at Ric Flair doing what he's doing. I mean, look, the back bump, he's 73 years old. You obviously know that he's not going to be able to do what he did before. You know, him throwing Jay Lethal over, that looked kind of rough. You know, this beginning part looks kind of rough. And if Ric Flair were to actually do something, I don't think you would see him do any of this. If somebody is going to attack Ric Flair, I don't think they're going to give him like a really gentle body slam like that. I don't even think you would see a shoulder tackle like that. That's lame. But if Ric Flair is in the corner like this, right there, you look at that, look at that, look at the punches, and then watch the chop. Boom. You see that and you listen to it, he nailed it. So is Ric Flair doing this just to train with a friend, get a little exercise? Or is Ric Flair possibly going to do something for an indie show, for AEW? Could something be in the future where Ric Flair is actually going to show up and maybe throw some punches to someone? Maybe it's another legend. I don't know. I don't know how you all feel about it. But again, 73 years old, obviously, you know, it's a very big risk for somebody who is at that age and has the tremendous health problems that Ric Flair has. But, you know, we all thought that he was going to be managing at the AAA show. Remember that a while back? Andrade was on that show, and we thought something was going to happen there. Maybe he makes an appearance for AAA. Maybe he shows up in AEW. But I will tell you that if he's going to get physical in any way, number one, no match. I don't want to see it. I don't care. Even if he looks perfect. I don't want to see Ric Flair in a match at 73. You know, it's risky with Sting. You know, Steve Austin's 57, so still, but we don't want to start seeing 60 and 70-year-olds having a comeback match. You know, I know we love nostalgia, and I know we miss a lot of these stars, but 60s and 70s, I think it gets ridiculous very quickly. But if Ric Flair were to come back and just throw a couple of punches and a chop to someone, whether it's Tully or I wouldn't say Jake Roberts. Jake Roberts, you could see he cannot move anywhere like he used to. Jake Roberts, I wouldn't even discuss that. But I could see him doing that to Tully. A couple of punches and a chop. I don't think it would be that embarrassing. He could possibly do it to a wrestler also. Don't be surprised. He could do it to an individual wrestler. It didn't look bad, but you're talking about one time and that's it. Because after that one time, sooner or later, Ric Flair's got to get his comeuppance. Is that how you say it? And if Ric Flair can't take the bumps, and he shouldn't take the bumps at that age, it's going to look really, really poor. Look, Sting gets away with it, with Sting's rules, as we coined it on this show. You look at Sting, whenever he has a match, it's no DQ, falls count anywhere, street fight, Texas street fight, New York street fight, whatever you want to call it, street fight. Because they don't want Sting taking the back bumps and actually wrestling. And you saw that moment in the corner, I think it was with Private Party, where things could get bad really, really quickly. But I think that's where you draw the line. So even with Bret Hart, we were talking about Bret Hart before. Do I want to see Bret Hart have one more match, whether it's Saudi Arabia or WrestleMania, even if it's a street fight? No. I love Bret Hart, and I enjoyed his work. But at 57 with Steve Austin, you know, the kicks, you know, I mean, quickly, you know, it was fine after. But, you know, it's 64. I don't want to see it. I keep thinking about The Undertaker, you know, that match with Roman Reigns, and think about Shawn Michaels when he reformed DX in Saudi Arabia. It's like you don't want to have that last match where you're like, oh, I should have never done that. You know, when you get to that age, the fact that, listen, what happened with Goldberg and Bret Hart is awful. It's an accident. And Bret Hart has every right to be upset to this day because Bret Hart, his love was professional wrestling. It was taken away. So you have something that you absolutely love and somebody takes it away from you, even if it's an accident, even if you forgave them, you still have every right to be bitter about it. But at least Bret Hart and others don't have that one last match where you're like, oh, this is what people are going to remember as my last match. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that. So take that however you will as far as the Ric Flair. We'll see what happens. So anyway, with that said, it is time for me to go. We are a little over 90 minutes, pretty manageable tonight. And don't forget, I will be here Sunday night. It is Saturday night. I'll be here Sunday night at 8:05 p.m. for the sit down. The phone lines will be open. If you don't want to call in, the live chat will be open as well. And remember, on Sunday, I show up with an empty piece of paper, and whatever topics you bring up, whether it's phone calls or chat, that will be the discussions on the menu. Tomorrow, clean slate. Everything is on the table. Wrestling, non-wrestling, whatever is on your mind. So I hope you could join me. 8:05 p.m. is the start. So I am going to jet out of here. I tell you, it's a pleasure to finish before 10 p.m. I get the show online by 10:30. You know, I'm going to crash a little early tonight, spend some time with my significant other. And by the way, I want to thank everybody for the well wishes last week for that medical procedure I had. You know, it's a shame that people actually have the audacity to think that, you know, that I threw that out there as an attempt for sympathy after, you know, what went down on Monday. You know, this was something I discussed on this show a few weeks ago that I was having to get done. Believe me, you know, when you're this close to prostate cancer, shows is the last thing that's on my mind. You know, wondering what my future is going to be, that is what I'm worried about. You know, I think that's the problem for a lot of people. They think the shows are everything. Life does get in the way, you know, and, you know, I thank everybody for your support. It is very much appreciated. And you guys are the reason why I'm here. You guys are the reason why, you know, we have grown as much as we have in the last 2+ years. And we've only begun. We've only begun. As long as I am physically, you know, able to do this, mentally, I think I'm strong enough. But we'll keep banging them out. And as long as there's things to talk about, then, you know, we'll keep going. All right, one last thing before we go, because Rain Entertainment just did a run-in right before we were exiting, which is fine. What was the reaction to the Heatwave 98 incident amongst the community? What Heatwave 98 incident are you speaking of? And you don't have to super chat this. I'm looking in the chat room. Am I okay? I don't know yet. I had snip done inside my prostate, and they're examining to see if I have cancer and if I need radiation or surgery. So I will know next week. Are you talking about Heatwave 2000? You might be referencing Heatwave 2000. So again, Rain, you don't have to super chat this. Just post it in the comment section. Heatwave 98, by the way, everyone. ECW Heatwave 98 is probably my favorite ECW pay-per-view of all time. That is the one with RVD and Sabu versus Jinsei Shinzaki and Hayabusa, God rest his soul. Heatwave 98 from beginning to end is one of those pay-per-views that I will watch it all the way through. I won't fast forward a minute. I won't even get up to get popcorn or take a leak. Heatwave 98 is one of those rare events. I'm sure you have some wrestling events. Is there any wrestling event that you put it on, you just watch it from beginning to end, you don't stop? No break, no nothing? Heatwave 98 is that for me. But Rain, I'm still waiting for an answer. Any day now. He's probably, you know what? I'll answer for him. He's probably assuming Heatwave 2000. If you're talking about the XPW incident, oh, the Bully Ray promo roasting the crowd. Bully Ray, he would come on, you fat fuck, you pussy. Actually, I will say this. Bully Ray on the pay-per-views he pulled back a little bit. I kid you not. He actually pulled back quite a bit because, ECW on pay-per-view was very, very difficult to land. Back then, Ultimate Fighting was considered banned and Girls Gone Wild. In fact, I heard there's a Girls Gone Wild documentary that just came out. I'm going to watch it because that was a big deal back then. I still remember when all the WWF divas, Girls Gone Wild, if you all never saw that, you need to see it. But Bubba Ray trashing on the fans, he actually was a little bit watered down on pay-per-view. You would think not, especially Joel Gertner, some of the things that he would say. But no, Bubba Ray, Elks Lodge, going to different states. He came this close of causing riots sometimes. If you put it this way, if you remember what I said earlier about MJF, if Bubba Ray did in 2022 what he used to say, trying to incite riots, he'd be blackballed. ECW would be chased out of states. I remember one time with the Elks Lodge, it got so intense. I was sitting in the rafters, and I was so thankful because, you always worry that he sees you and he calls you a fat bastard or something like that. But, man, he would just go after the fans. You showed up with a girl, oh my God, you don't know. He would not only rag on the guy, he would rag on the girl, and the girls would want to kill him. They would get fucking pissed. And the funny thing is, if you go back and you watch some of the non-pay-per-views of what Bubba Ray would say, and Bubba Ray would tell you this as well, one of the funniest things about Bubba Ray, and I hope he hears this because this is something that I always picked up on and I loved it, and a lot of people didn't. What I loved is when he would call some of the women's rats and whores. The women, and look, I don't condone that, but when he would do that, part of the act, but when he would do that, and the women would want to kill him, you have to go back and look at some of the, I think our video house show stuff, and you would see the boyfriends next to the women laughing their ass off. Their girlfriend or wife or just a date for the evening are like, fuck you, you motherfucker, I'll fucking this, come on. And he say that to the women. And meanwhile, you look at the guy next to him and the guy would be laughing his ass off. He's like, look, you got owned. You imagine the drive home? That girl's like, you didn't stick up for me? You thought it was funny? No pussy for you tonight, motherfucker. Bully, oh yes, chaos. Bully Ray, oh my God. It's a shame how much of Bully Ray, Bubba Ray's promos from back then you never ever see today. And honestly, if some of them came out, you might have some social media backlash. Some of them went beyond. Make MJF seem a little PG. Seriously. But if you ever get to ask Bubba Ray a question or bring that up, ask him. Do you remember when he used to rag on the girls? How the boyfriends would laugh at the girls getting berated? It was funny, man. I used to laugh. That's the thing that made me laugh more than anything, is watching the girls get so angry that some of them look like they were sobbing. And then you look at the boyfriend next to them and they're laughing their ass off. Spectacular, man. Well. I am a Dudley's and Joel Gertner mark for the rest of even though I had that skirmish with Bubba Ray, we don't need to revisit that. But even though we had that skirmish from the TNA days, I have always been a fan of Bubba Ray. I know, he says some things lately, the Moxley stuff I totally disagree with. But hey, we live in a country where you have the right to say dumb shit. That's how I look at it. But talking about inciting a riot, you talk about wrestlers who could incite a riot, he's top five. Top five. But again, I'll say this in closing. Say this, we'll go. Remember what I said about MJF before. AEW allows him to go way over the top. ECW allowed Bubba Ray to go way over the top. When Bubba Ray went to WWE, he couldn't do any of that stuff. Even during the Attitude Era. How they compensated? put a woman through a table. You couldn't say those things on WWE television. So MJF with that platform, yeah, it could incite a riot. But, you know, once you go to a different company, all that changes. So, but the good ones adapt. That's the thing. So great vibe today. Great vibe. Awesome. Glad everybody had a great time tonight. And I'm going to jet out of here. I hope you have a great Saturday night. And if you're around Sunday, stop by. We will have a fun Q&A call, live calls. We'll run about an hour to 90 minutes. And then Monday, you know, I'll be here as well. We'll talk about Raw, any news that transpires over the weekends. We'll see if Tropical Storm Sytch hits landfall on Monday. That might be a little bit too soon. But, yeah, we'll definitely talk about everything. So if you enjoyed tonight's show, I would greatly appreciate it if you hit that like button, the thumbs up on the way out. It does help with the algorithm. Helps me get a little bit more noticed here on YouTube. For everyone else, my audio-only family, and they are the majority, obviously, I hope you enjoyed this as well. Check out the video if you want to see any of the screenshots of the stuff I brought up earlier. And if you know anyone out there that would enjoy the channel, let them know about it. So, all right, everybody, be well. Stay safe. As always, I thank you for the support, and I hope to see you either Sunday night at 8:05 or Monday night at 11:05 after Raw. So good night, everybody.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.